Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I'm just sitting here drinking my morning coffee, getting ready to start my day. Getting ready to get my squat on. And today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about why I'm deloading and things for you guys to think about when it comes to your own deloading and planning and everything else. And here's what you guys are probably going to notice is interesting. I've had people telling me to deload for 2 months now. Notice I've continued to just keep come through and I've still been setting a PR here and there. People need to keep in mind, most people are never going to overtrain. Most people are never going to overtrain. And in fact, someone like me, because I'm in a life situation where I can manage my lifestyle, I don't have to always deal with the same outside stressors that other people do. Maybe your job and everything else can really be a problem. Now, that isn't to say I don't have outside stressors. Most of my stressors have to do with friends, family, relationships, stuff like that. And believe me, you guys know those things can be serious stressors. I've definitely had some very serious stressful situations revolving some of that in the last few months. But I'm able to mitigate that. And because of that, notice how much further I've been able to push before I need to back off at all. And note what it took for me to get there. Because again, you see a lot of people who think, they need to deload every 4 or 5 weeks, and you look at how they train, they're not even training that hard. They're not training that hard. And this goes to show you what you have to do sometimes when you're even lifting heavy to get to the point to where you can say, oh, I'm getting close to overtraining. I'm not even overtraining yet. I'm not in an overtrained condition at this point. But what have I done at this point? I've been for 5 months on camera, and I think it's been 5 months on camera now. I need to check the exact amount of time, but I started doing daily squatting or squatting 6 days a week, I think around February, right? Does that sound about right? Here we are, start of August. I'm just now starting to see the signs that I need to deload my squats. I had been squatting every day, and then as of recently, I added in back off work. For over a month now, I have been doing back off pause squats. That's what I've switched to now, but back off work in general with a lighter weight after hitting a training max 6 days a week on the squat. And 5 of those days at least, I deadlift also in the same day. I'm deadlifting also. About 3 weeks ago, I started added cardio back in. So I've been doing 30 minutes to an hour of just low intensity cardio every day, not counting walking my dog. And now, after all of that, I'm finally at a point to where my thighs and like my groin on my right side, everything else is at a point to where it's screaming at me, hey, it's time to deload, it's time to back off. And notice I'm still reluctant to do it. I didn't want to do it. I mentioned in my training video yesterday, I don't want to deload. I think I'm at a point where I have to, but here's what we need to look at. Look how far you can push yourself before you actually start to reach an overtrained condition or get close. Like at this point, I'm getting signs now that if I keep pushing, I will probably reach an overtrained state in about 2 weeks. When you reach a truly overtrained state, what happens? Everything goes to crap. You might even need to be hospitalized. But your lifts usually go down 25%. So if you squat 400 pounds normally, take 25% off that. You're going to be a 300-pound squatter. If you bench 300, you're going to be benching 225 as a max. That's what happens when you reach a truly overtrained state. You start getting cramps, everything else. Well, I'm starting to get spasms up through my quads, particularly my right one, when I walk. But notice that yesterday I came in and I did, even though I'm at that edge, that bleeding edge, I couldn't do back off work yesterday. The day before I had to take off from training because I was actually feeling sick and nauseated. My whole body hurt, mainly my legs, but I struggled to even squat 315 that day. So I just took the day off, and I was also getting sick, but overreaching can make you get sick. It can cause you to be more susceptible to illness. But I still managed to do a 440 beltless high bar squat yesterday in spite of being in this situation, and my bench stuff is still going up. So the things to evaluate when we start looking at overreaching, sometimes you need to assess, is it half of your body, is it one lift, or is it your entire system that needs to reset? In my case, I'm looking at it realizing, okay, all these months, because of all the heavy leg work, day in, day out, I'm reaching that state to where I'm getting spasms in my quads. Sometimes when I'm laying there trying to sleep, I'm getting spasms running up through my quads that wake me up at 2 in the morning. All right, these are signs. These are signs that you are overreaching. This is a sign that you have probably overreached to the limits of your recovery, that you are exceeding your maximum recoverable volume. But it took me not, I wouldn't be in that condition had I just done singles on squats. Had I just hit a training max every day, I probably wouldn't be in that condition. But I also feel like I wouldn't be able to gain as much muscle. I'm also not bulking. So basically staying at maintenance or a tiny calorie deficit, look how far you can push it before things become a problem. I've had to go to a point where I did that for 5 months. Then over a month ago started doing back off sets and doing cardio. And for the last 2 months or longer actually, I've been deadlifting at least 5 days a week. Just now reaching that state. So what people need to assess when it comes to this stuff is it your entire system? And in my case, it's not, because my bench is still going up. My bench press is light. My bench press is light right now. All my back off work is actually moving really fast. I'm not getting any sort of cramping or problems anywhere in my upper body. It's purely my lower body. My groin, my hip, both of my quads, some of the connective tissue near the IT band. My IT bands are getting inflamed. Again, when you start dealing with some chronic connective tissue inflammation, you start getting muscle spasms when you can't perform lifts. Like when you go to do stuff like I did yesterday, back off work, and the bar with my lighter back off work, I went to walk it out after hitting my 440 squat, and it felt like 500 pounds sitting on my shoulders. And I just walked it back in and stopped. Okay, these are signs that it's time to deload. But what's interesting, and people need to remember that, is you need to step back and go, is it just your upper body or lower body that you need to deload? Is it a single lift you need to deload? And you can base that upon performance. Because obviously things like my squats are the most taxing thing I do. It's not even the deadlift. The deadlift is only slightly harder to recover from than the squat, but I also don't push my deadlift as hard. I don't do as much volume. I don't do as much intensity. All right? So it's not as big of an overall factor. It can stay where it is. So in this case, I must have to assess it and say, okay, I need to just deload my squats. How long? Probably a week. How much? Well, cut intensity and volume. You know, I'll tell a lot of guys you might need to go as low as 50%. But you need to cut to 50% when you're doing a lot of weekly volume or a lot of volume in one session. In my case, I'm probably just going to cut down to about 70% of what I've been doing. All right, about 70% for singles. Right, so I'm going to take my normal training max and I'm going to cut it down to about 70% of that and just do singles with it without the back off work. So we cut volume off the back off work end, cut intensity down to about 70% and just do singles for a week and then assess how I feel. And that's the way that you have to do this stuff. And you need to do individual assessments with this when you're an advanced lifter. Now, if you are an intermediate lifter, most of your programs are going to have structured deloads. You know, like my intermediate program, I have a deload scheduled every 12 weeks. You deload every 12 weeks. Yours can be predicted. When you start to become more advanced, guys, you're going to have to play this stuff by ear. But here is the other thing. What you always need to do first, sometimes people are too quick to deload. And that's something I think is a problem sometimes too frequent of deloads, when it's sometimes other things you can assess. Can you improve your, are you malnourished in some way? Meaning, is your diet not on point? Are you missing something in your diet? Maybe you're eating too much if it fits your macros, flexible dieting, and maybe you're not getting enough veggies or fruits or whatever in your diet. You've got some nutritional deficiency. Address stuff like that first. Are you getting enough sleep? Right? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you mitigating other stressors in your life? Because a lot of times those things can be manipulated. And if any of those things is causing your problem, deloading may not be your answer. It may not always be your answer. If you can manipulate the other variables to bring your stress levels down to improve your recovery, you may not need to deload at all. You can sometimes fix that and you'll start making progress again. You can keep pushing. But if you have assessed all of those things, and particularly if you start struggling to sleep, it's one thing if you're denying yourself sleep because you're choosing to do other things. But if you're going to bed at a reasonable time, turning off all the lights, not looking at your phone, all this other stuff that affects your sleep, and you're starting to get body pains that are waking you up, cramping or spasming that's waking you up, deloading may be your only option at that point. It's probably your only option at that point because now the overreaching is interfering with your ability to sleep. And when that happens, you've got a problem. So this is just stuff that you need to assess. These are things that all of us need to assess once we get to be a little more advanced, and we need to figure out what's going on with our training. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised it took me this long to start to notice this. This has been interesting with the style of training I'm running and pushing this experiment all the way through long term. It's taken me pretty much 5 months to reach a condition to where it's like, okay, it's time to take a deload so that I can improve, reduce my chances of injury, so I heal up, get stronger, and keep moving forward. And what I'm going to do during this week, I'm going to take the time to keep pushing my bench press, because my bench needs to go up. It's not floundering at all. So some of that extra recovery while my legs are chilling can go towards my bench press, and then just maintaining, working on my technique on my deadlift and all that stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, these are just different things all of us can think about when we're looking at our training and looking at our recovery and deciding when we need to deload, how we need to deload, what method we need to use. All right, guys, sorry, I'm half awake. Maybe I've mumbled too much and rambled in this video. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.